What if the absolute kindest, like most generous thing you did today was actually a disguised act of self-harm?
It's a heavy thought, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we are totally conditioned from childhood to believe that giving is universally good. Like, to be a truly valuable person, you just must be endlessly available.
Right. But psychology and behavioral science tell a much darker story about our need to constantly be the quote unquote bigger person.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are stepping into a masterclass today on personal coaching and energy management, and it is completely tailored for you, the listener.
Yeah, and we're analyzing a phenomenal text today called Stop Burning Yourself to Keep Others Warm. 5 Surprising Truths About the Martyr
It's
Complex.
such a great title, and the mission for this session is super clear. We are going to coach you through the hidden, psychological traps of chronic self-sacrifice.
And equip you with a definitive toolkit to reclaim your personal sovereignty.
Yes. So, okay, let's unpack this. The text confronts us immediately with this highly toxic, totally unspoken rule that most of us are operating under without even realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to decode the subtle but critical distinction between true altruism and what is clinically described here as, well, self-sacrifice syndrome.
Right, which means we have to step back from the daily grind and take a calm, fiercely analytical look at our own behavior.
Yeah, we really need to dissect why we automatically say yes when our bodies are literally screaming no.
And it comes back to that unspoken rule, right? The rule that your fundamental goodness is measured by your level of depletion. Like, if you aren't tired, you aren't doing enough.
That unspoken rule is the engine of the entire problem. I mean, before we can even begin to formulate a strategy for burnout, we have to dismantle the mythology that justifies it.
Oh, the mythology.
Right. And the most stubborn myth is that narrative of being the bigger person. There is this deep societal conditioning at play here.
We've totally internalized it.
We have. We've internalized the idea that nobility or maturity or even like spiritual superiority requires placing our own dreams, our own nervous systems at the absolute bottom of a never-ending priority list.
And the analysis draws a hard line in the sand right there. It strips away the romance of being the ultimate giver and just states flat out that this constant deferral of your own needs is not a virtue.
No, not at all.
It is a highly efficient fast track to a burnout of the soul.
Burnout of the soul, that's exactly it. Because beneath the outward commitment, beneath that smiling, reliable face that always steps up to volunteer, there is a very specific type of physiological exhaustion.
Yeah, the text describes it as a visceral tugging inside.
Right, and let's focus on that visceral tugging for a moment, because it's not just a poetic metaphor. It is a literal somatic warning sign from your nervous system,
They feel it in your gut.
or as a tightness in your chest. It's the body signaling a functional inability to say no without spiraling into a severe guilt trip. And when you consistently die to self, as the author frames it, and willfully neglect the pursuits that give your life meaning, you aren't actually achieving a moral high ground.
Right.
You are actively facilitating the destruction of your own capacity to function.
Okay, but I want to push back on this for a second, just to inject some real-world friction here.
Sure, go for it.
Wait, isn't being the bigger person or the forgiving one universally a good thing? I mean, society runs on people stepping up.
That's the common argument, yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
if everyone suddenly stopped volunteering or stopped mediating family conflicts or stopped working late to save the project, wouldn't the whole system just collapse? It sounds like we're treating our personal energy like a limitless credit card for other people's needs, but we're the ones silently paying the hidden interest through resentment.
What's fascinating here is how the bigger person narrative actually functions psychologically.
Yeah.
It's very rarely about keeping society running. Yeah. Most of the time, it's just a noble-sounding mask. We use the identity of the forgiving one, or the reliable one, to suppress our own difficult truths.
Oh, wow. So it's a cover-up.
Exactly. It covers up deep grief, resentment, and this paralyzing fear of inadequacy. And that leads directly to an addiction to endurance.
An addiction to endurance. Let's really look at the mechanics of that. We essentially start worshiping our own pain tolerance instead of actually pursuing growth.
Yes. Feel like an autoimmune disorder of the personality.
That is such a good way to put it.
Empathy is supposed to be this incredible tool that protects our social bonds, right? But in this state, the empathy becomes hyperactive. It turns inward and starts attacking your own healthy boundaries.
The autoimmune analogy captures it perfectly. Your defense mechanisms are literally destroying the host. And this endless endurance creates highly toxic behavioral patterns that the text categorizes as self-erasure.
Self-erasure. You aren't simply putting yourself last in line. You are systematically erasing your own identity from the equation.
And we need to look at how this self-erasure actually manifests in daily life because it's subtle. The first pattern is withholding yourself to avoid conflict while letting massive resentment simmer just below the surface.
Right, you stay quiet to keep the peace.
But your jaw is clenched the entire time.
Yeah, because you're furious that the quote-unquote peace of the room requires the silence of your voice.
Exactly. And that internal dissonance takes a massive toll on your physical energy.
It's exhausting.
It is. Then there's the second pattern, which I think is going to hit home for a lot of people listening, holding unspoken expectations.
Oh, this is a big one.
Demanding in your head that others show up for you in all these specific ways while you absolutely refuse to ask them for help out loud.
That requires brutal self-honesty to confront. I mean, we secretly want people to be telepathic. We want them to read our minds, recognize our exhaustion, and rescue us.
Because simply opening our mouths and asking for support feels like a violation of our core identity as the giver.
Right. If we have to ask, we feel like we've failed.
So true. And the third toxic pattern of self-erasure is burning bridges prematurely.
Yeah.
Using your own absence as false proof of your worth. It's that classic, they'll finally realize what I do when I'm not around to do it anymore.
You use your disappearance to validate your existence.
Exactly. When you carry emotional weight that was never yours to hold in the first place, you shrink your entire life into a checklist of resentful obligations.
Which is just a tragic compromise of human potential.
It really is. So if adopting this bigger person persona is neurologically exhausting and it inevitably triggers all these destructive patterns, we have to ask the obvious question.
Why do we keep doing it?
Right? Why do we keep doing it? Let's diagnose what's happening beneath the hood. What are the hidden motives here?
Well, if we isolate constant self-sacrifice and put it under a microscope, the evidence shows it is almost never pure altruism.
Yeah.
Functionally, it operates as admiration addiction.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Kindness is basically being weaponized against the self. We are using service like a shield.
A shield, exactly.
We look disciplined and devoted on the outside, but really we're just hiding behind kindness to avoid the scary task of asserting our own identity.
The shield protects you from the perceived danger of vulnerability. I mean, if you're always the helper, nobody ever asks what you need.
Which means you never have to face the terror of not knowing the answer.
Exactly. And the text provides a brilliant, highly confronting metric for this. It says, admiration from others does not equal alignment with yourself.
Admiration does not equal alignment.
Right. When your primary mode of operating is prioritizing external demands, it's an avoidance strategy. You are avoiding confrontation, you are avoiding rejection, and you are avoiding the profound responsibility of owning your true self.
When you constantly use acts of service to convince the universe that you're doing life right, you aren't really serving the people around you. You are fleeing from yourself.
And this chronic avoidance mechanism wires the brain into what is categorized as the martyr loop.
Martyr loop. Let's
Yeah.
dig into that.
It's a deeply entrenched psychological feedback loop. When you sacrifice your own needs, your brain receives a hit of dopamine from the social approval or that internal feeling of nobility.
Oh, wow. So it's chemical.
It is.
Right.
Over time, your nervous system actually wires pain and self-neglect together with safety and love. You unconsciously seek out situations that cause you pain because your brain believes that's the only way to validate your existence.
We literally become addicted to our own exhaustion. We start believing that suffering is the currency we have to spend to, buy our right to take up space on the planet.
The author zeroes in on this cognitive distortion with an incredibly precise phrase. They say, you have mistaken a wage for a gift.
You have mistaken a wage for a gift. Let's break down the mechanics of that.
It demands a total paradigm shift. You have to interrogate your own belief system and ask if you view your self-worth as a paycheck.
Right?
Are you clocking in, enduring suffering, and suppressing your needs just to earn a meager wage of basic dignity?
Wow.
Because the absolute truth established here is that your self-worth is inherent. It's structurally, undeniably built into you. The analysis states unequivocally that you are not here to prove your worth through suffering.
It is not your destiny to bleed just to be seen.
No. Your dignity is not something you earn on an hourly basis. It simply exists.
It exists. Full stop. The realization here is that your value isn't measured by how much you give away, but by how present you are. Settling into this role of strange victimhood doesn't make you more available to your true purpose.
Not at all. It actually makes you entirely unavailable because your energy is constantly depleted, and it's categorized as strange victimhood because it's entirely self-imposed, usually disguised as heroic endurance.
Right.
But the biological and psychological reality is that it simply hollows out the core of who you are.
So we've successfully diagnosed the mechanics of the martyr loop and the dopamine cycle of admiration addiction. Now the pivot. Because this is a masterclass, we aren't just going to leave you sitting in the problem.
We need solutions.
How do we break out of it? The framework argues that the antidote begins by completely restructuring our understanding of boundaries.
Yeah, and historically, we view boundaries as defensive mechanisms. We think of them as pushing people away or just being difficult.
Which feels mean, right?
Right, and that defensive framing is exactly what keeps the martyr loop spinning. The nervous system perceives a boundary as a threat to social connection, which feels dangerous.
Exactly.
But the text re-engineers this concept entirely. Boundaries are not acts of unkindness. The quote is, "Boundaries are not walls, they are gates to your well-being."
Walls versus gates. The architectural difference there changes everything. I mean, if you build a solid wall, you are trapped inside and everyone else is permanently locked out.
It's isolation.
But a gate has a hinge. A gate gives you conscious control over what enters your space and what exits. It ensures that you aren't just a limitless resource for people to mine.
Right.
But when you do open the gate, you are truly vibrantly present with them.
Saying no actually increases your capacity for intimacy, rather than destroying it. It's an act of extreme clarity.
I love that.
When you have the structural integrity to say no, the people in your life finally understand that when you say yes, it's a genuine, fully present, enthusiastic yes. They aren't just getting your leftover resentful energy.
By reclaiming that hinge, by operating the gate, you transition from being used to being useful.
Yes.
We see a fundamental shift in the mechanism of service. It moves from a fearful compulsion, which is giving from depletion, to a conscious choice, serving from abundance and joy.
This is the critical neurological transition. Giving from depletion is rooted in the fear center of the brain. The amygdala is driving the bus, terrified of abandonment.
Wow.
Serving from abundance engages the prefrontal cortex. It's rooted in conscious joy and surplus capacity.
So what does this all mean for you? I want to ask you, the listener, a targeted coaching question right now. Think about your own life. Pull up your calendar for the next 7 days in your head. Look at the obligations, the meetings, the favors you've promised. Are your current obligations a conscious choice, or are they a fearful compulsion?
That's the real test.
Right. Are you showing up because it aligns with your joy, or because your nervous system is terrified of the guilt you'll feel if you cancel?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the analysis introduces the concept of a moral obligation to care for oneself.
Moral obligation.
Yeah, this isn't about spa days or superficial self-care. It's about the structural integrity of your life. True contribution requires transitioning from unconscious people-pleasing to conscious sovereignty.
No, you literally cannot meaningfully contribute to the world if your giving is constantly rooted in the fear of rejection.
Exactly. Authentic service must come from a place of fullness.
Fullness. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you certainly can't build a legacy by scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Absolutely not.
Theory is great, and understanding the survival wiring of the martyr loop changes how you see your own behavior. But as a masterclass, we need to put this into action.
You do.
We have a highly specific toolkit, 4 high-performance alignment practices designed to actively rewire the neural pathways of self-sacrifice.
Let's get into the application.
Practice number 1, the alarm method.
We start with the alarm method because the brain's default mode network is incredibly powerful. You will automatically slip back into people-pleasing without an external interrupt.
So what do?
You select a grounding truth statement. For example, my value is inherent, not earned. You set 5 physical alarms on your phone for random times.
Okay.
When that alarm sounds, you must stop your current task, break the trance of the day, and repeat the statement. You are manually rewiring the internal narrative.
You're forcing a system reboot 5 times a day. I love that.
It works.
But an interrupt alone isn't enough to create lasting change, right?
Right.
You need behavioral proof to show your brain that you are a priority.
Yes.
That leads us directly to practice number 2, the 10-minute momentum. The directive is to do one small action serving your own goals within the next 10 minutes.
Your goals, not someone else's.
Exactly. Not your bosses, not your families, your goals. And I'm enthusiastically challenging you, listening right now, do not let the sun go down today without applying this. Take 10 minutes to read, to stretch, to map out a personal project.
Lower the barrier to entry for your nervous system to experience putting yourself first. And the 10-minute constraint prevents the brain from generating excuses about not having enough time.
It's just 10 minutes.
Exactly. Now, to manage the larger macro decisions of your week, we move to the third practice, the joy-based audit.
The joy-based audit.
This is about tuning into the somatic signals we discussed earlier. You analyze your schedule and identify one act of service this week coming from genuine joy.
Oh,
You protect that.
okay.
But the moment you look at an obligation and feel that physical tightening in your chest, that bodily sensation of a compulsion, you immediately pause. That physical compulsion is your biological cue that a gate must be closed, a boundary is required.
That feeling of compulsion is your nervous system waving a red flag. It's brilliant because you don't have to overthink it. Your body makes the audit for you.
It really does.
And finally, to maintain this new architecture, we have the fourth practice, the daily sovereignty track. At the end of the day, you objectively record the specific moments where you compromised your truth.
You aren't doing this to judge or shame yourself.
No, just gathering data. Awareness is the first step to reclamation.
You cannot re-engineer a system if you refuse to look at the data. These four mechanisms, the daily alarms, the 10-minute momentum, the joy audit, and the daily track, they all frame around the source's conclusion. Developing the courage to be somebody.
The courage to be somebody, not a chameleon, not just a highly adaptable extension of whatever everyone else in the room needs you to be.
Precisely. True fulfillment only emerges when you refuse to let external approval dictate your significance and unapologetically own your personal capacity.
We've covered a tremendous amount of structural, life-altering ground today in this session. We diagnosed the hidden exhaustion of the martyr loop. We identified the shield of admiration addiction. We completely transformed boundaries from walls into gates. And we deployed the 4 alignment practices to reclaim personal sovereignty.
It's a complete paradigm shift. And the source asks this really profound question. What does living aligned with your divine worth look like for you?
Which is such a powerful thought, and to leave you with something to really mull over after this session ends. Think about the people you love most in this world.
Yeah.
Your children, your best friend, your partner. If tomorrow they started copying your exact blueprint, if they adopted your exact boundaries, your inability to say no, and your habit of constantly burning yourself to keep everyone else warm, would you be proud of them? Or would you be absolutely terrified for their well-being?
That is a staggering metric for self-evaluation.
It really puts it in perspective.
It does. And I want to build on that and leave you with a final, lingering thought. If you stopped using suffering and self-sacrifice as the currency to buy your worth today, what incredible, joyful things could you build with all that newly freed up energy and time?
Wow. What could you build? That is the paradigm shift to carry with you. Thank you for joining us for this coaching masterclass deep dive. And don't forget your immediate assignment. Take that 10-minute momentum step right now as soon as you hit stop. Prove to your nervous system that you are worth your own time. We will see you in the next session.